Hey guys, this is Karthik. I am a podcaster. I run the Design Your Thinking podcast. And if you're someone who's watching this video for the first time, this is a part of a series that I started yesterday, which is a challenge I set for myself to put out a video every single day for the next 90 days. Why? Well, the simple reason is that I've been a camera shy person for all my life. And there's an entire story that I kind of unwrapped in yesterday's video. So I'll have the link to yesterday's video right below. If you're watching this on YouTube or Instagram, you'll actually find the links to yesterday's video there as well. So, well, that's the whole idea. I wanted to start shooting myself, with the camera to actually talk something. So, that said, today I really wanted to talk about a very important topic that a lot of people have in their minds. In fact, that's come as a question to me so many different times in the last 3 years. So, for those of you who don't know me, I've been running this podcast called the Designer Thinking Podcast, where I interview entrepreneurs, creatives, and nonconformists, and I literally try to dig so deep into conversations with them that I've had people, have all sorts of feelings. Some of my guests have cried on the show. There are guests who've had who literally had moist eyes, and a lot of people have had all sorts of emotions kick in. So, I've not been hit. Anyways, I think the point is my interviews are pretty deep. Now, how can you get somebody to be on your show and knowing that your questions can actually get so deep that they would actually have a very authentic heart-to-heart conversation? People have asked me, how do I reach out to these people? And by the way, these people are not, the regular people that you would probably bump into in everyday life. I've had some really high-profile guests on my show, and I've kind of convinced them successfully to be on the show. The question has been, how do you reach out to people? How do you reach out to people to be on your show? How do you reach out to people to actually come and talk to you? And how did you start doing this 3 years back? Well, that's the most important part of that question. Everything started 3 years back. I have never been in a sales job. I have never known marketing. I've never done any of this that I'm doing today. But when I got started, the only thing I knew I wanted to do is interview people on my podcast. So there were a few things that I really started to consider the minute I realized that I should be doing this. There are three things really. One, well, what are these people? I mean, why do I want to have this person as a guest on my show? What is that I want to get out of them that is going to be useful for my audience? Number one. Number two, how can being on my show help this person, the guest? How can I really add value to them when they come on my show and when I actually have an episode recorded with them? And number three, actually, how does all of this add to the total value that I'm creating in the show, on the podcast? So I think these are the three important questions I kind of started to rely on, and I started to reach out to people. Now, as you know, a podcast is online. So the way I've reached out to people has been predominantly online. And talking about reaching out to people, I think the best way I've always found, being somebody who's completely bad with social media, I've never ever put myself out in social media so much as I'm doing now. So I've always resorted to actually doing all of the cold calling, as they call in sales, on email. So how do I do it? Once I figure out who I want to have on the show, the way I approach it is I try to get the email address. Now you can get the email address in various different ways. You can do the wrong things. Well, I don't try to do any of those things. So I try to do all these things in a very legit way, and I'm going to kind of try to unwrap the whole thing in the next 6 minutes or so. The first thing is, if you want to get somebody's email address, you need to have your intentions right. And when I say intentions right, I think the whole point is you need to really answer those three questions. Are you adding value to them? will they be adding value to your show, and will the show overall be gaining in value, through conversation with this person? If your answer is a yes for all three of them, for you got to look for the email address. How do you do it? There are a few different ways of doing it. If they have a website and if they have a newsletter, the best way I've kind of found, found out people's email address is actually subscribe to the newsletter. Just get on the newsletter, and you will get a newsletter from them, and you will actually see the email address in the newsletter, and just go ahead and use it. Just reply to that. The best way to do it is just hit reply to that newsletter and reach out. That's A. The second, or that's number one. Number two, one of the best ways you can get someone's email address if they have a website is to actually use. There are tools available, quote unquote, free tools available that are out there to use it. One of my favorites is Voila Norbert, and I'll put the links to the tool right below this video. You can use this tool. I think you get 50 email addresses for free, meaning you can find out 50 email addresses for free. So what you do is that inside that email, you can give the domain name and their first and last name, and voila, it actually gives you their email address if they have one. Well, if they don't have one, then you probably need to resort to the the newsletter approach. Or number three would be to actually seek recommendations and references through LinkedIn. That's again something that has worked really well for me. So those are the three different ways. First, I would say actually I would put the Voila and Norbert as number one, number two, newsletters, and number three, LinkedIn. You can reach out to people, you can connect with them, and add a personal note when you connect. Tell them why you want to connect with them, and you have a limited, a margin in terms of what you can ask them there. Just try to be wise and reach out to them. So, well, that's actually the best way the three best ways I've used to reach out to people. Now, that said, I think the challenge with reaching out to people is not about reaching out to them, but actually getting them to do what you want them to do. In my case, be on my show. And the best way I've found to do this is to talk to them about what is in it for them to be on your show. So why should someone be on your show? If I've had Seth Godin on my show, I should be telling Seth, why should you be on my show? What's in it for you? It could be that you have a big audience and you're going to give them exposure, or number two, it could be a simple thing that you actually have a wonderful interview format that would actually get some amazingly new data points out of the person, so that they can actually take it back and perhaps use it for a blog or perhaps a book. Well, there are so many different ways you can actually add value to someone. So first, think about that. In the email that you write, first focus on what value is being on your show going to add to them overall. Number two, what does it take to be on your show? Would it need for someone to actually travel down to your place, or is it going to be a Skype call? Now, again, be wise with your choices. Asking someone who doesn't know to use Skype to actually go ahead and get on a Skype call can be a little intimidating, and hence you might not find that person showing up on your show. Having somebody to travel to your place could always have some challenges. So make sure you're actually having the right options for the guest. And finally, make sure that they know exactly who they're going to be speaking to, which is by far one of the most important things. Why should they be on your show? Because they want to know who I am going to be speaking to. If I'm on your show, I would like to know who I'm going to be speaking to. In other words, who the audience is and what's the reach. Now, I think these are the three important things you should be really looking at. Now, this can apply to anything. It could be a podcast. It could be you probably are raising money for a charity, or you're probably getting someone to sponsor something that you're doing. All right, that's all I have for today. I really hope this helped you. If it did, please like this video, share this video, and that's all I have, guys. Cheers. Take care. Bye.